When World War II ended, the idea of nuclear warfare reshaped global power and made a difference to almost every single nation. Both Hiroshima and also Nagasaki showed the whole world that just one single bomb can destroy an entire city instantaneously. These different bombings showed the entire world that their life was in the hands of their leaders, and with that dynamic, struck fear within the hearts of our entire global population. At that time, the United States of America was the only predominant nuclear superpower, and this raised awareness for the Soviet Union and faced them with how they could respond to the American monopoly of atomic weapons. After Hiroshima and Nagasaki got bombed, it put the Japanese in a tough situation, but they caved in and ultimately surrendered. Global power was shifting way too fast, which gave the Soviet Union an idea to make their own atomic bombs to gain power, intimidate the United States, and advance as a superpower globally. Specific revolution in military power created widespread fear and caused major reforms. Protest movements happened, nuclear treaties were put into place, and those above were trying to control the spread of nuclear weapons. The power of the atomic bomb used on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were so devastating that it forced the Japanese to surrender to the United States. Hiroshima exploded 1,900 feet above the city and killed about 70,000 people instantly, and around 100,000 people by 1945. Nagasaki had been impacted similarly. It also killed a ton of people, around 40,000 people instantly, and 30,000 additionally after the initial explosion. These two scenarios transcribed the future of the human race was directing towards, and it put fear into the hearts of the people. The death toll and the damage inflicted caused Japanese surrender. The Japanese accepted the terms, saying that the authority of the emperor and the Japanese government shall be subject to the supreme commander of the Allied powers. When Japanese ended up surrendering, it came to show how predominant nuclear weapons were. The Trinity test, in other words, demonstrated how functional and dominant these nuclear weapons were. The Soviet Union, up to this point, knew that they couldn't let the United States of America be the only nuclear power. This set the foundation of the nuclear revolution. After the USSR used spies to extract information to create an atomic bomb, the USA and USSR began advancing nuclear technology at an alarming rate through being competitive. Russia built the bomb after the United States showed their dominance at the time when it came to nuclear warfare. The Soviet Union thought it would be a good idea to work on their own nuclear bomb, and so they did. The USSR built a bomb to simply intimidate the United States. They also wanted to be seen as technologically advanced, and they wanted to try and prevent the US from being the most dominant. The Soviet Union used a lot of their resources in spying on the United States, and hundreds of Americans provided secret information to the Soviet Union. These things that the Soviet Union did allow them to accelerate the amount of time it would take to making a nuclear weapon themselves. At the time, nuclear technology showed national progression to be able to compete with the United States, and for one, being able to hold their own and being able to evolve technologically. The Soviet Union wanted to show that they could match the United States as well as challenge them. As a result, they changed from a war-torn nation to a political force with the capacity to influence the entire world. Their own success in creating their first atomic bomb in 1949 ended the United States' predominance and shaped nuclear warfare in the nuclear arms race. A threat to the United power came when Joseph Stalin made the choice to put the Soviet atomic bomb as one of their top priorities. It wasn't a reaction to pressure, it was more of a deliberate effort to try and intimidate the United States and try and balance military power, be practically a one-to-one equal with the US. US weapons became the thing to focus on, so they weren't seen as less in a sense. An American official by the name of George F. Kennan kinda had an idea of what the Soviet Union was trying to do. He wrote that the Soviet expansion was to disrupt American society and to weaken the United States' influence. He also talked about how the United States must maintain patient but firm and vigilant commandment of Russian expansive tendencies. These ideologies George had deepened the divide between both nations, and when the Soviet Union did their first test in 1949, the world was more scared. Just one disagreement or one misunderstanding, and the human race could cease to exist. These shifts marked the revolution. nuclear weapons became the foundation of global politics, as well as foreign policy. This revolution based on nuclear development created widespread actions around the world due to both the United States and the Soviet Union essentially racing each other to build better and more powerful nuclear weapons. Fear was spread throughout the governments, schools, cities, and households, and people were scared for their lives. They started making hydrogen bombs. This bomb was more strong than Hiroshima and was at least 100 times more powerful. Now, this exactly is what struck a lot of fear into our civilization, because if one bomb like Hiroshima, which is at least 100 times weaker than a hydrogen bomb, could destroy an entire city, a hydrogen bomb could wipe an entire region. The Cuban Missile Crisis is where the most amount of fear peaked during the nuclear arms race. President John F. Kennedy talked about how Soviet missiles in Cuba created tension between both sides for 13 days. The world was just waiting to see if their lives were at stake and if either the United States or the USSR would do something. The launch at Sputnik, the satellite, lightened us to realize that missiles could deliver a nuclear holocaust in literal minutes. This fueled the space race and made the United States predominantly focus on science as well as technology. The fear of our existence perishing also caused worldwide activism. The nuclear arms race helped create the first global protest movement. It was called Ban the Bomb. The people wanted protection of nuclear annihilation. Public reaction caused political reform. Both nations had around 12.3 thousand nuclear weapons, and with that, should carry the responsibility to negotiate so they could reduce global nuclear danger. The International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, ICAN, dismantled 50,000 nuclear weapons, but still, 12,000 still exist at the time. I think everyone could agree that the nuclear arms race changed global politics, and the public consciousness of Hiroshima and Nagasaki both revealed what nuclear destruction could actually do. Bombs in general influenced Japan's surrender, showing that military conflict was not just about armies and guns. It made the Soviet Union begin its atomic program to intimidate the United States and progress technologically. Stan Crash nuclear program is what marked the revolution. It changed international power, and it was a dangerous era for competition. The public's reaction to all this was just fear. Fearing for what they built their whole life ceasing to exist, fear of hydrogen bombs and missiles, and the Cuban Missile Crisis showed everyone at the time how close things could have ended for all of us. The sense of fear produced global protest movements, negotiations, treaties, and it was all to reduce the danger of something going south. Although thousands of nuclear weapons still exist, the reforms that were formed during the Cold War are still here today. The revolution sparked its first atomic bombs, the reactions of scared citizens, the reforms due to diplomacy, all keep the topic of the nuclear arms race still alive today. The world is still evolving, and ideas are being exchanged, but this topic gives all leaders the remembrance to avoid a nuclear devastation.